Today on the show, I have the great pleasure to welcome Karl-Johan Silberbrandt. Hi, Kalle, how are you doing?
I feel great.
Very happy to have this chat with you today. I understand that you're a senior underwriter, you're specialized in renewable energy, and you've worked for
Correct.
nothing less than 15 years in the insurance industry. You're
Yeah.
actually an electrical engineer. You have an MSCEE from KTH, the Swedish Royal Institute of Engineering, and your passion is kite surfing.
Yeah.
What do you tell your kids that daddy does?
Well, I tell my kids that I'm a part of the big backup system that actually ensure that we can put up more wind turbines and solar panels in the world. I mean, the finance sector as a general is an enabler. I'm an engineer by background. The engineers, they invent stuff, but you need funding as well. The banks provide funding, and the insurance companies, they actually provide the backup. So actually banks will have the courage to provide funding for scary projects, wind farms out in the ocean or solar panels out in the desert and so on. So
Well, that's
that's what I
super
tell my kids.
exciting. So you go around and you actually go to see these different power plants or
To be honest with you, I spend most of my time in office. I mean, that's a brutal fact. Of course, I mean, we go visit the sites as well. And very important part of our work is not only to insure them, but also to provide technical know-how to certain that they don't break. So we also work as some sort of internal consultants, telling our clients how to run the operation smoothly without any errors, basically, operational errors.
that's where you need your engineering background to make sure that you can
Yeah,
basically support your clients. So that's kind of risk management that you're doing.
that is risk management. So we all need to plug into the big system. As I said, our vision to the systems is really to help our clients to avoid fires, to avoid machinery breakdown, so they can operate the assets and ensure that they make the revenue so they can pay off the debts. Because the debts they came from the bank is finance, and without finance, they will have no money to build them. So we all plug into the same big system. And insurance is one important part of this as well.
So before joining insurance, you were an actual engineer. Remember, you were going to Latin America. We met in Brazil and plenty of other places where you were going actually to, is it nuclear plants or
Yeah, you're right. So I was part of the group building power stations. So you could say that I made transition from the engineering side to the financial sector, still keeping energy in sight and in focus.
what got you to change from actually building the stuff to insuring it or doing the risk management?
There are things happening in life. You get opportunities coming up in front of your eyes, and you need to ensure that you grab them at the moment. It wasn't like a massive plan behind it, but I'm very happy to end up this way.
15 years in the industry. Can you
Yeah.
give us a concrete example, if you can, of what you actually do? What exactly does it look like?
From an outsider, my work is very office based. What really comes into place is experience and know how I bring to the table. But what I do, I spend my days negotiating, exchanging information, requesting information, and providing this risk management know-how. All this can be done from a desktop nowadays, but the question is how you gather the information. So I gather information through experience in my previous work, as well as I go visit sites. Let's say every month I'm out to visit some sort of a client, learning myself, and also provide the know-how that I've gathered from other sites.
Let's take the example when you go to a site.
Sure.
Arrive, you
Sure.
put your little helmet and look around, or what does that look like?
First of all, I never go alone. I always go with an expert with me. So I do have an engineer at my side as well. And so usually what I do is I pair up with him or her. And what we do when it comes to site, of course, you do the normal inspections. You ensure that they have proper fire protection installations in place. I mean, that's for certain. But also when you look at how losses actually do occur, they usually have failing systems, that you have a protection system failing, you have some sort of additional error, and you have the human element as well. So usually my added value into this equation is to go and check up how people work the processes around this, how they do handle exceptions, or how they do handle if changes occur in the operations. Sounds very theoretical, but it really comes down to make sure that people really know what they're doing. And in this case you have some anomalies, something goes wrong, they need to ensure what to do if something goes wrong as well. Because mind you, that happens a lot. Power stations do break down a lot. And well, like electricity, we do have a problem as a society. So they really need to know what they're doing, and they have the best uptime ever.
Yeah, and we have these problems now with electricity in Europe as winter has started, huh?
Europe, I think, is an excellent example because we had this idea that we could not invest more in energy, but actually pull down, have less power stations installed. And that means whenever we have a big problem, and we do have a big problem at the moment, we have less backup. And of course, with less backup, we're even more dependent that each power operator really know how to operate their own unit and they don't break down, which of course is happening.
Curfew is low, I guess.
That's it.
You mentioned earlier renewable energy. So which types of renewable energy are you specialized in? And is that interesting?
So I think renewable energy is really interesting, really because that's where the growth is at the moment. There are two factors which is super interesting with renewable. One is, of course, the CO2 footprint is extremely low or zero, basically, depending on how you calculate, life cycle analysis. And two, it's cheap. We're looking at cheap power. Whenever you install a wind turbine or solar panel farm, which I'm focusing on, we're looking at cheap power come on grid. Now, the drawback is, of course, as you know, wind power only works when the wind blows and solar power works when the sun is around. It's not a perfect system, but it's really good complement to what we have at the moment.
Okay. We have a good mix in Europe, do you think?
That's really beyond my know-how. I don't know about the energy mix. We have issues at the moment. I don't know about the mix.
Right. Now back to the underwriting. Here terms are underwriter, the famous pen of an underwriter. So basically when I hear this, I think about underwriting people, someone who signs all the time papers with a pen. What is it exactly to be an underwriter?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So, an insurance company, basically, it's a contract between the client and the insurance company. So the client says that you insure my asset, I pay your premium. And whenever we have a fire, you pay me so I can build a new one. I'm the one signing those contracts. How the process really works is that you need someone with a mandate to actually put the insurance company at risk. Insurance companies generally have a very, very lean organization. So you have lots of mandate with very few people. That's great responsibility. And it's a very interesting situation as well, because you need to ensure that you do the right thing.
Basically, you have a lot of responsibility put on your shoulders, because if there's something in the process that you analyzed goes wrong, then your company will have to pay potentially big claims.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Do you have someone behind you checking out the work you've done, or how does that work?
Sure. There's compliance functions, checking what I'm doing. I do have internal...
You have no light anymore.
That's bad electricity. I think we just talked about this, didn't we?
Yes. Well done, Kalle. Well done.
So I do have a manager, of course. I do call it compliance functions, ensuring that I do the right work, but we're very lean organizations. The decision making is actually extremely fast, because in this work, you might not think so, but it is a volume business. So you need to have a certain volume in order to get this business running. Insurance is very simple. You have lots of entities paying a premium, and then one burn down, and the premium will go to rebuilding that again. Now, the issue is you can't have them all burning down, because then there's no money left on the table. So this is the balance you do as an underwriter. You want to ensure the right assets, so you actually provide the proper protection, but you don't want to insure the wrong assets. You're actually running out of money at the end of the day to rebuild it.
You speak about wrong assets, but are there companies where you say, oh, sorry, I looked at your risk, I looked at your processes, cannot do this, I cannot take this risk, I cannot underwrite your risk?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there are plenty of those.
What do they do then?
It's a free market. There are so many ways of doing this. You can change this. You can still insure them, but you have a phenomenal deductible. Let's say deductible is hundreds of millions. It might be worth doing it. It's also the other way around. I can go and offer my insurance rates and insurance terms, and there's a competition in the market, and the client says, I have a better deal on the table. I'll go for them instead. So this goes both ways, really.
So are you more an engineer or negotiator?
I'd say both. You need to do the analysis, that's the engineer. Negotiator comes in the second phase to ensure the time of client. So it's a very interesting work.
You even close the deal, that is, you actually sell at the end. You're the one selling.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like a small insurance company with me only, you know? Yeah, yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
okay. It requires a lot of different skills.
I don't think it's impossible to do it. It's very interesting work, lots of variation, and you need to ask your colleagues as well. I do rely on a tremendous amount of expertise around me as well, of course.
So to work with complex multinational insurance setups, what does that mean?
Well, ideally, you have a small corporation with one wind turbine in one place, but you look at large corporations and they work in different ways in parts of the world. Finance sector is, and especially insurance sector, is one of the most regulated sectors in the world. Regulators have a vested interest to ensure that in case you do have a fire, the insurer has to pay up so you can rebuild this factory or this wind turbine. And also, they usually have an interest in collecting tax for the premium as a state. It's actually very, very difficult to set up an international insurance solution. This compliance part is taking more and more part of the time to ensure that you have a full-fledged cover all over the world, which also is compliance and works according to the different laws and regulations all over the world. And believe me, they do vary a lot.
So you basically have all these different plants for it to be a big client that produces phones or whatever, and different countries. So you have to look at all these different risks, all the different processes in the local regulations.
Yeah, that's it. And
Wow.
You have some countries with mandatory insurance covers, and you have some countries that do not allow for certain insurance covers. It's a very regulated world. As you say, there's an engineering cap you put on, you put the negotiated cap, but you actually do have a compliance cap as well you need to put on. And that's taking more and more of my time.
But don't you also have a project manager cap? Because you cannot know all these regulations. So you must have colleagues in the different markets, or how do you know what's possible over there?
So, I mean, talking about caps, I'd say I'm more a relay. So I need to be an enabler. So usually when you try to put up a system, you meet lots of problems. So I try to work with my colleagues, the expert, as you say, and find how to set up a solution which is compliant and effective. Less a project manager and more of an enabler. Because all people I work with are highly skilled in their own areas.
And I'd like to know now, I have to deal a lot with clients. How do you really increase engagement with them? How do you really make sure that you work together?
That's a very good question. We are working in a competitive market. There are lots of insurance companies around, and there are clients that we decline, but also clients that we find very attractive. We'd love to insure them, and we need to provide something value added. I always see this as a win-win solution. And talk about engagement. The client would pick our insurance cover if we can provide value added. If we actually can tell the client, look, you don't provide insurance cover, but you actually get our advice how to ensure that you actually never have a breakdown. That's something that creates engagement. And then you start having dialogue as well, because the client is suddenly very interested to hear what we can provide, but also happy to share what they have in their know-how, what they are doing as best practice to ensure that they can run the operation smoothly. And this is how we have a know-how sharing actually spinning around. The advisor is a very important part of our business. It's a win-win game. If they have no losses, we don't have to pay out indemnification, and they have no breakdown of the machinery either. They can run the operations.
Okay. You compete with other, because then there is another color somewhere working for another insurance company, going to be very talented too. How do you compete?
It's a tough game, Philip. This is really a tough game. Really, you need to go down and get close to the client, understand what their needs are, see how we can actually fit into their specific needs. And what I should say, there are lots of talents around. So you need to actually be on your toes, keep learning, ensure that you have what the client needs. If you don't have it, ensure that we can get it somehow. So engagement is an important key, as I say.
Engineer, the Internet of Things, the blockchain, metaverse, drones, AI, of course. Do you see any of that tech coming into insurance world in a big way?
I think that all the technology at the moment are playing the role of relieving work for volume business. So we have chatbots for support. We have online systems to provide information, share information 24/7 with clients. You have automatic NatCat mapping systems to see when a natural catastrophe do occur or where the highest risk is. So you really know how sharing. We're not yet, I think, what you actually are alluding to, which is this custom made, the client specific information provided. So we are probably more in the phase of massive information handling at the moment. But I know we get it there. A very interesting tool. It's a hot topic. Everybody's talking about it. We have chain solutions for insurances. We have AI helping out for fraud detection, for example, which is a very important part for us as well.
How do you use for insurance at the moment?
Usually when you have a large client, no insurance can insure the client by itself. You need to share the risk. In case you have a major fire, it's a lot of money to pay out. And if you share the risk, it's safer for the industry, for everyone. Blockchain is handled, as far as I know at the moment, how to handle transactions between the insurance companies and clients, because you can actually then identify everything was happening, all transactions, and have it very smoothly made.
So is that a way of between the insurance companies to share the risks? And there are some automatic systems to...
Let's say automatic payment systems,
And they use the blockchain already now for this?
I think it's being used. It's actually a European project and is led by the largest European insurers. I read it in media some time ago, and they have been running this project for a few years now.
Well, thank you very much for this very interesting discussion about insurance, and have a nice day.
Thank you. Thank you for the cheers.